I just want to let people know that in the book, Ryan talks about Nancy Pelosi, Harry Reid, and even Obama as a lot more progressive than I would like to think they are, but I want people to read the book so they understand why you think they are. And that kind of leads me to my final question, which is about Elizabeth Warren. I too wanted her to run. I actually asked Bernie in 2011 when he was out here for a Senate fundraiser if he would please challenge Obama in the 2012 primary. And I'll never forget how he answered. He said, no.
Yeah.
And it was really clear to me that Bernie was not going to take on the power structure. But
And then he floated it publicly.
did he?
Yeah, and that was the thing that Hillary used against him a ton in South Carolina and elsewhere.
Really?
He didn't say he would do it, he said, I wish somebody would.
Yeah.
Because this was in his belt-tightening deficit hawk.
Now here's the thing, Elizabeth Warren, and I messaged you this, and I'd love to see the actual letter, because you said in your book she did not sign the letter of all the Democratic women senators. The article that I read said she did sign the letter, they all signed the letter, but the thing that she did that was so dramatic is not go to the fundraiser. She was the only woman senator who did not go to Hillary's fundraiser because she was holding out. So my final question to you is about Elizabeth Warren. I like Elizabeth Warren. I know you like Elizabeth Warren. She is being, to my mind, unfairly pilloried by the Bernie bros out there. And I'll use that word affectionately because I consider myself one. Like there's people out there that have platforms, and again, you know, this is Facebook and Twitter, not the average voter, where they're really just talking about, well, she didn't endorse Bernie, and she didn't go to Standing Rock, and she voted for the $700 billion war budget, and all this sort of stuff. Well, you know, nobody's perfect. I mean, Bernie votes for the F-35 fighter every chance he gets, because it's Vermont. And so you spent a lot of time with Elizabeth Warren. Do you think that these purity tests, like AOC was also pilloried for supporting Nancy Pelosi for Speaker? You know, they were talking about Barbara Lee. Barbara Lee didn't even want to run for Speaker. She wanted to run for the other job. And if progressives spent as much time promoting her for the other job she wanted, maybe she would have gotten it as opposed to that Hakeem Jeffries. But what is your thinking about, you know, Elizabeth Warren and what role she plays? Because I truly think, I like Tulsi. I personally don't think she has a chance. I get pilloried for saying that. But what do you think about this thing between Elizabeth Warren and Bernie as far as who could get the nomination, who's more electable?
Right. I mean, it's been fascinating to watch the kind of anti-Bernie folks start to rally to Warren in a weird way. I'm sort of like, you have no idea what you're supporting here. If you think that this is, unless it's just a pure.
What do you mean by that? You don't think she, when you say you don't have an idea, do you think she's not as progressive, or do you think she's not as elected?
Not as centrist. So
she's more progressive.
Right.
Oh,
so
she's more progressive. Oh, I see.
I had somebody email me today that was saying like, you burners, and they call me a burner, pegging me by my demography, I guess. Saying you burners, you know, we've got Harris, we've got Klobuchar, we've got Warren, and it's so jarring to see like
just being lumped together.
those three together.
And they have a totally different policy position.
Yes.
What do you think? I mean, they're all not Bernie. Like, other than that, they don't have a lot in common.
Exactly.
And so, you know, like you said, I've been covering her really closely since 2008, 9 when she started coming. You know, or you know, she wasn't watching a lot for the bankruptcy fight. That was before I was covering politics. But I was at the first press conference where she was a law professor unveiling I think at the time it was called the Consumer Financial
Protection.
That's what it was called. That's what it's called now. Financial services?
It was modeled after the consumer, not that the consumer, the Product Safety Commission.
Yeah.
She kept making the toaster analogy.
Yeah.
That like, Financial Product Safety Commission. That was her original name for it.
Yeah.
There's Brad Miller and Dick Durbin, I think, were the people that. And so I met her there, and have been covering her very closely since then. And so watched her kind of be the voice at the time that was willing to attack the Obama administration and attack other Democrats who were getting weak. on the CF, what became the CFPB.
Yep.
While Bernie at the time was the same Bernie we know now, but he wasn't engaging in those fights. He played a good role in the ACA in getting more funding for community health centers.
Yeah.
But aside from that, he wasn't an active player in these fights, even though he was a senator and she was a professor. And so in 2016, I came into it with that bias of like seeing that Sanders hadn't been terribly engaged in using his platform to work with the media, work with progressive media to try to drive a narrative. He hadn't been organizing internally. Like if you think about one of the key fights of our lifetimes may have been the effort to stop Larry Summers from becoming Fed chair. We don't know.
That guy.
Like, it succeeded, so we don't know.
People don't know enough about that guy.
What damage that may have done to the globe.
Totally.
And not even on his politics, just on his personality.
Right.
Oh,
Like you can't have
Basically he said at Harvard that women were not as smart as
yeah,
men.
and you can't
He also
have
thinks we should put all of our pollution in the global south because
yeah,
it's more
and
efficient.
having like
guy's a douchebag.
having a person that can't control himself as the
Yeah, he's
chairman
bad
of the Federal
news.
Reserve could be a disaster.
Yeah.
But Bernie wasn't in on that, and so it did take me a while to actually recognize that Bernie had gotten a movement behind him.
Yeah.
In many ways, as I write about in the book, kind of in spite of himself, but also because of himself.
Yeah.
Like because he'd been so stubborn
Yeah.
and so difficult and so dug in.
Yeah.
Like that.
He had that
also,
consistency.
That was
Yeah.
his great virtue as well. And I've seen him evolve as a politician
Yeah.
as an organizer in an impressive way since
Yeah.
2016. And so I think for a lot of people who, of my generation, of the people in the 40s, late 30s, 40s, who watched Warren rise, and you still see a lot of them in the who are unable to recognize the change that's happened and that so much energy is behind
Yeah.
Sanders. At the same time, I think that people who think that she's lumped in with Harris and Klobuchar
Yeah.
or Biden are just nuts and have no
Yep.
idea what they're talking about. I think
Well,
the
but
two of them together, and they need to get together.
you think he should run with her?
Well, so here's what's interesting is that I could very much see if you have Sanders as president, Warren makes a much better Treasury Secretary.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Oh, hell
and-
yeah.
And Tulsi should be defense secretary. Yeah.
and Treasury Secretary who also has all of the economic
Yeah.
portfolio.
Yeah, that would be good.
But it's much more difficult to see where a Sanders fits in an administration other than as president.
Right.
Vice president,
True
I
story.
guess.
Yeah.
But
No.
and you want him for the energy, but
I agree.
and you don't really want him as Treasury Secretary.
No.
Maybe you do. I don't know.
I want him as
So do you think that
But-
he can, okay, first of all,
But-
do you think she could get the nomination, and do you think she could beat Trump?
I think yes and yes, but I think that's also true for Sanders.
That's fair.
And I think about 76, very Democratic year. A ton of Democrats got into the race because they figured Ford's extremely unpopular, Republicans are in free fall. Whoever wins the nomination is going to be president. And so many progressives got in, or liberals, or whatever you want to call them at the time, that they split the vote, and Carter just kind of stumbles with 30% in Iowa, 30% in New Hampshire, and then he does well in the southern states. It's Super Tuesday, and eventually he's got an insurmountable lead and goes into the convention with 40% of the delegates and wins, and then is, like you said, a much more right-wing president than we know because we think of him as the great post-president that he's been, but as president, he's not at all. And so there's a risk that Democrats do the same thing again. So I think that Sanders and Warren, whoever has the better shot, either coming into Iowa or coming right out of Iowa, needs to get behind the other one.
Yeah.
Or, you know what I mean.
Yeah. Well, we've run out of time. I want to have questions off the stream,
Okay.
but I want to promote this book. It's called We've Got People, From Jesse Jackson to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. The End of Big Money and the Rise of a Movement. There's also great chapters in here about issue fights, for gay marriage, for the end of DOMA, for immigration, which still has not been won yet, and also looks back into the various Democratic Party primaries since Jackson that we've been talking about. And we look forward to your adding more chapters to this book. I could probably get you some more information about Jerry Brown's run because it was very pioneering in a lot of ways. And tell the viewers how they can buy your book.
Go to strongarmpress.com. You can buy it direct from the publisher.
And that way you don't have to buy it on Amazon.
Don't buy it on Amazon that way. And the other thing to do, even if you already bought it, go to your local bookstore, tell them they should stock it. Go to your library, tell them they should stock it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the bookstore,
I remember
they're like
those.
coffee shops too, man, like books.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.